President Obama's Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, saying he did not know about Russian interference in 2014, but he also said that Russians have been trying to interfere in our elections since the 1960s, and that he and others knew about the meddling going back to 2015. Joining me now, Trump 2020 Campaign Media Advisory Board member Gina Loudon. Gina, good to see you. James Clapper then went on to say, well, here's what we're tracking with James Clapper. He then went on to say meddling was worse under Trump. So let's just try to get this straight. On the one hand, Clapper is saying Russia meddling has been happening since the 60s. On the other hand, it's bad under Trump. So what's going on here?
You have to wonder why these people aren't just scared to death that they should just end all of this now and stop talking about it, because the more they talk, the deeper they get themselves in trouble. We know now that the only collusion that happened is exactly what the president said from the very beginning, and that is between Hillary, the DNC, and Russia to create the fake dossier. That's the whole story. Everything else is a distraction.
But the president has been tweeting over the weekend, attacking everybody but Vladimir Putin and Russia. Should the president be going on the attack and saying, I do have concerns that Russia is meddling? Should he say, yes, Congress, sanction Russia for meddling?
Well, I think that the president realizes that, yes, Russia does it, but there are other countries that do it too, and he's acknowledged that.
But he's been pretty silent over the weekend about it, right?
I think that he did tweet something about it. He said maybe it was Russia, maybe it was China. And as you said, even Clapper acknowledged that Russia's been doing this forever. We all know that Obama tried to meddle in the Israel election, and with Netanyahu. And so this is what countries do. Doesn't make it right. It's horrible. But when it all comes down to it, Liz, the meddling that we're talking about was really some Facebook ads totaling, I think, about $500,000, which is what Hillary Clinton spent many days of the campaign. So we're talking about an inconsequential amount. Now, do I think it's wrong for anyone to meddle, especially for the purpose of division? Yes, and I think Americans should unite in retaliation to that. I think that we should sit down across from one another, those of us who disagree, figure out what we agree on, and come together and work together. And there are lots of opportunities to do that. And that's the best way to get back at Russia for what they tried to do.
And President Obama has been criticized for meddling in Brexit when he said the UK would be put to the back of the line, back of the queue, if it went ahead with Brexit. But remember when James Clapper got criticized for misleading Congress about NSA collecting data and invading on the privacy of average Americans? Let's roll tape.
Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly.
What's your reaction there?
Well, that means he's the known liar. It's pretty simple to see. And that means that whatever he says probably shouldn't be taken too seriously. And so I think that, I think the one person who's been very straightforward about this from the very beginning, about what he knows about it, is the president, President Trump. And I think that the American people can relax on that. The Democrats don't want this to go away, because this is the only thing they have. They are losing on every level, from money to the great economy that they hated and didn't work with. You called it crumbs, called the tax refunds crumbs. So there are so many reasons why the Democrats are losing right now. Liz, I think they are just so desperate to hang on to this particular issue and keep it in the news. And the bottom line is there's just not a there there.
To your point on the Mueller probe, James Clapper said, quote, "I do think there are other shoes to drop." But he's also repeatedly said there was no evidence of collusion between Trump and Russia. Let's listen.
I saw no direct evidence of political collusion between the campaign and the Trump campaign and the Russians. At the time I left, I did not see any smoking gun certitude evidence of collusion. We did not include any evidence in our report, and I say our, that's NSA, FBI, and CIA, with my office, the Director of National Intelligence, that had any reflection of collusion between members of the Trump campaign and the Russians.
So what's the basis for the statement, quote, "there are other shoes to drop"?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's him, maybe it's Podesta, maybe there are more indictments coming that have nothing to do with President Trump, but they want to keep it out there so that they can keep the rumor floated, so that they have some narrative to talk about to try to win in the midterms. I think they'd like to take this past the midterms. I don't know what other campaign issues they have, Liz. Do you? I can't think of one.
You've been on. We've talked about the lack of economic policies. I mean, and yeah, you're right. Gina, we want to have you back on. Gina Loudon, good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Love being on. Thanks, Liz.